stories will thrive. From mist to earth and blood to fire. Welcome to another video by the Blue Tongues of Hell for some more Hyldr Chronicles. This chapter is called Óðinn's Eye. The warm sun was low in the sky, almost ready to kiss the crest of the Nibelungen Mountains. Elivarga River was alive, with a silvery glint of smolt racing towards the sea. Herons and cranes filled their bellies with wriggling young salmon, while opportunistic gyrfalcons filched the occasional fish that slid out of their beaks onto the frosty banks. There were rope bridges on either side of Óðinn's Eye, and Asmund crossed one on foot. He was tense and ready for anything. His side of the islet was bathed in shadows, and the backlighting from the setting sun made it hard to detect the enemy. A ghost owl flew off, and a man stepped out of the miry grove from the center of Óðinn's Eye.
It has been a while, son of Óðinn,
said Hyldr, placing his sheathed sword on a rock.
We used to play here, not so long ago, remember? We drifted apart, thanks to our father's war, and yet I feel I know more about you than I should. I thought you'd be taller by now, son of Njal,
replied Asmund, following Hyldr's lead and unarming himself to a certain extent.
And what is it you know about me that my sister has told? I thought we'd carry that secret to the grave. How long have you known? Let's call it the wild hunch,
said Asmund, crushing a sleepy green snake's head with his boot. Hyldr tried not to be intimidated by Asmund's daunting size and stepped closer, ignoring the headless snake wriggling on a warm rock.
Is she all right? How did she react? React your kidnapping my Kyōko after crossing our lands? I would say her mortification was nothing compared to my opinion on the matter. I'm guessing it was my sister who gave you the missing key.
Hyldr fingered his chest pocket and took out the key.
Your Kyōko was locked up in a cell to rot. She was dying to get away, and it only took one innocent invitation of mine to get her to leave,
said Hyldr, throwing the key to Asmund's feet.
What have you done with her?
He replied, picking up the key to acknowledge the gesture of goodwill.
We haven't done anything to harm her. We didn't toss her into a freezing prison in the middle of the woods. She's warm, better dressed, well-fed, and grateful. My cousin has taken her under her wing, and I have not witnessed any deadly curse that has poisoned our people. Well, not from her.
Asmund clenched his fist, exposing white knuckles.
What do you want in exchange? I didn't have trading cattle in mind, Prince Asmund. I was going to suggest a truce. A long-term truce. Haven't you had enough of this futile war? Seriously.
Asmund looked his enemy in the eye and tried to decipher how serious he was. He rubbed the rusty key between his fingers and placed it inside his coat.
That's rich, coming from the thieves of the Death Hammer. But to tell you the truth, that wouldn't be so bad. If Muspelheim doesn't stab us both in the back while our guard is down. A truce would be acceptable if you give her back. Asmund, she isn't mine to give. If she wants to leave Helheim, she's free to do so. I would even go so far as to offer you free passage, if you wish, to check on her well-being. Far from the dungeon of Nebelwood. Wouldn't that be convenient? You'd have nothing to gain from having me stroll inside the white walls, would you? Bring her to me, and then we'll see how glad she is to be the White Dragon's guest. I don't see why not. After tasting the Green Elk's hospitality, who wouldn't want to run back into your laughing arms for more?
Said Hyldr.
I will tell her exactly what you told me. I'm sure you will,
said Asmund, stepping back to where he had put his sword.
Hyldr, son of Njal. I will be expecting a falcon with promising news.
Make a wish.
Did you bring any black teeth with you to drop into the wishing well?
Said Hyldr, referring to the old well in the middle of the islet. It was said that one could make a request to the gods by throwing a ripped-out tooth into it after chewing charcoal or having dyed black teeth.
Perhaps I could borrow a few,
added Asmund with a grim smile.
A truce, Asmund. I came here to propose a truce. Try to keep that in mind. You can always make a wish.
Flocks of birds filled the skies as an army of Helheim warriors on horseback stormed eastwards. They crossed the shallow part of Elivargar River while blasting horns and clashing shields as they took off for Vanaheim, leaving a muddy trail behind them.
You treacherous adder!
Cried Asmund, running for his weapon.
I didn't know, Asmund. I swear. On my beloved's head, I bet. Go fetch your sword and face me, you coward. Coward? Was it not you who abandoned your family to go fishing for a few years? To make sure you didn't have to do any fighting. I see no other way to shut your mouth, to lop your head off,
said Asmund, swinging his red sword, reflecting the bloody sky. Edil dodged the deadly blade and rolled backwards to his own sword. It was far more dented and scratched than Asmund's, and he feared it wouldn't last one more battle. He was also furious that his father would use him like this without sharing his intentions. He didn't want anything to happen to Hyldr, and if they succeeded in crushing Vanaheim this time, then this duel under the eye of Óðinn was of no importance to him. Nevertheless, there was no escaping Asmund's jealous rage. Asmund dashed forwards and lashed out, aiming for the chest. Edil deflected the heavy blow, digging his sword diagonally into the boggy ground and kicking Asmund's knee. The kneecap didn't shatter, but Asmund lost his footing, which gave Edil time to get onto his feet. Momentarily, the red sun splashed Asmund's face. Edil used whatever he could to his advantage against this wall of muscle and swung his blade horizontally to slice Asmund's neck. A lock of chestnut hair flew over the blur of iron as Asmund ducked in time and thumped his assailant's wrists, hoping to disarm him. Edil winced, but held on tight to his grandfather's cleft blade. Dragon's tongue would not let him down. He quickly stepped to one side and struck Asmund with frightening speed, causing him to stumble backwards. Edil felt a warm flow of energy flood his veins, and he reiterated his attacks, pounding Asmund's thicker blade. The stronger man withstood the impressive surge, but understood his sister's secret lover was not to be taken at face value. Edil's eyes were ablaze, and Asmund's instinct warned him to tread carefully. With a roar, Asmund jammed his sword between the 2 points of Edil's cleft sword. Using his superior build, Asmund pushed Edil back, forcing him to bend the knee. But the Prince of Helheim was no novice with such a weapon, and twisted his hilt. Asmund groaned as his wrist suffered the agonizing contortion. With another scary acceleration, Hyldr moved to his right and slit Dragon's tongue down Asmund's blade. Vanaheim's could see what was about to happen, but was too slow to react as Hyldr swiped the back of his gloved left hand. Blood gushed out, and Asmund was left with one useful arm to fight with. That wouldn't stop him. Asmund visualized the Jormungandr before him, an obstacle keeping him away from Kyōko. The worm had to be slain. With an eerie battle cry, he hoisted the heavy sword up with his right hand and spun round, thrashing his enemy with shattering strength. Hyldr defended himself, but the clash of iron caused his bones to shudder. His ears rang as Asmund delivered an even heavier blow. Hyldr knew his battered blade would not resist another beating, and dodged by rolling in Asmund's direction, drawing a concealed dagger, his mother's deadly Skafnung. Hyldr maimed the man's calf, and Asmund tumbled onto his back. When Asmund lifted his head to face his opponent, the last needles of the sun, twinkling through the grove, dazzled him. Enough, Asmund. I have to find your sister. She's not safe, said Hyldr, retreating towards the trees. Asmund snarled. You stay away from her. You're the one who isn't safe. The wounded leg didn't hinder Asmund's determination, and he hobbled forwards, dragging his sword with one hand through the sodden grass. Hyldr walked backwards through the grove, bumping into branches and scraping his skin. When he turned to see where the well was, Asmund charged forwards. They both fell, caught up in brambles, and dropped their weapons. Asmund grabbed Hyldr's belt and received a boot to the jaw. Hyldr scrambled through the lacerating brambles over to the old well and used the circular stone walls to help himself up. Asmund was already onto him, with both hands around his throat. Years at sea had strengthened his grip, and Asmund squeezed Hyldr's neck like a mooring rope tightening around a bollard. As life was fading from his eyes, Hyldr whispered a sorrowful Hilda, which made Asmund loosen his grip. From out of nowhere, Hyldr drew multiple knives and slashed Asmund's arms with great speed. Hyldr dashed out of sight, around the well, through the dank trees, and over the rope bridge to his horse. Concerns of pride and bravery mattered little to Hyldr in comparison to Hilda's safety. His claws retracted, and he galloped across the river, shouting to Asmund still on the island. Save yourself! I will save your sister! Run while you can! Bellowed Asmund, unable to sprint to his own horse. Kyōko, worry not.
I will free you myself.
Vigrid snowy plains were pale blue in the waning gibbous moonlight. Patches of green grass were beginning to sprout, revealing remains of many old battles. Horns and drums cracked the silence. All of Vanaheim's warriors found the energy to plough through the snow towards the purple dusk. Helheim would not survive this unexpected onslaught. King Jarl and his brother-in-law led their own troops to victory and were convinced of the same outcome. They forgot their dreariness and despair and built up a frenzy to smash down Vanaheim's gates and burn the lot to death. Only Hyldr and Eleonora's mounts were left at the royal stables of Vanaheim. Loyal to the very end, even Sten had joined the delirious king. Eleonora drank manna wine from an aurochs horn, with a dagger close by, just in case. Her husband's schemes hadn't worked out so far, and that was when he had his wits about him. "Where is Hyldr when you need her?" said the queen to the dainty flames. "For Ódinn's sake, where is the girl? I haven't seen her since." Eleonora felt a rush of guilt, knowing she had forgotten about her stepdaughter. She picked up the dagger and dressed into a warm, long wolfskin coat and hurried to the stables where her horse was all alone. "So tell me, Sune, what did Vlusper mean about the hidden powers of the bloody hoof's sap, and the cauldron being a gateway?" asked Hyldr, walking up sticky steps to the second well.
Your memory is as sharp as your tongue,
Sune replied, walking behind her.
My mother told me that one day you would be ready to take the test. That would be when one of the wells may have let you live.
It certainly did, didn't it? Not my choosing.
We don't all get to choose,
said Sune, touching a trapdoor in the floor with 2 fingers and swiping it with 3 others. The door scraped sideways, displaying a pit of darkness. "Is this the test?" "I'm not sure I want to go down there," said Hyldr, holding Sune's arm. Sune's blood began to boil, and he inhaled deeply, emptying his mind.
I'll go first if you wish. This isn't one of the rituals. It's just an entrance.
More than one. Tell me about these rituals beforehand, please.
Not now, Hyldr,
he said, removing Hyldr's hand. A little hint as to why I should be doing this. Sune could hear the rush of hemoglobins in her veins. He could smell the scent of her sweaty flesh. A torment with nobody to help him restrain himself. He blocked out the sound of her oily voice and recited the Nornish litany a few times. When the blood from Eikthirnir's antlers floweth, indigo worms on fire, whisper the calm of rising red moons. Whisper the calm of rising red moons. Whisper the calm. Susu, tell me. Sune did not open his eyes, and the color of his skin wavered. Hyldr, enough. I will tell you this, and then we will descend. The wells require guardians. The swans and I are some of them. The wells need monarchs to ensure their safety and to guide us. Without a monarch, the balanced harmony of the great ash tree's roots is put under stress. Without all three monarchs, I fear. Nothing good, I'm guessing. To put it lightly, you didn't notice how warm the howling cauldron was, did you? The snow is thawing rapidly, too. We need someone to take the reins, temporarily rule over the three wells. Mother said it could work. The Hyldr haven't had a supreme Norn since Óðinn was killed. It is said her son was meant to lead us. Skuld and Kara also say that Refr was reborn. But I've yet to meet this so-called woodland king. Hilda saw Skuld bleeding to death in the woodland stream. Hedil's mother. She shook her head to empty her mind. Why me? Sune wanted to tell her, but fought an inner battle to hold back his hunger and grabbed Hilda's hand to jump down the hole. He turned around at the last moment to see who was running up the sticky staircase. A colossus of a man ripped Hyldr from Sune's grasp and kicked him down into the pit of darkness. The stranger picked Hyldr up under his arm and ran back down the stairs as if each step were melting into thin air. As many bizarre smells and sights flashed by, Hilda was surprised to not be afraid. She was somewhat relieved to be whisked away from a terrible unknown task, and relaxed by a familiar feeling of freedom or comfort. With her ear pressed against the man's hairy torso, Hilda thought she recognized the rapid beating rhythm, the acrid scent. Freya, she caught herself thinking. They flew past the cave entrance and didn't stop until her kidnapper was out of Nebelwood. He gently put her down on the flattened grass where the snow had melted, and he turned to leave. Don't go. It's you, isn't it, Freya? Out of habit, the man did not reply. You know, I was pretty certain you were a mare, not a stallion. How can that be? Freyr took some time to break the silence. Years of servitude, of pretending to be a domesticated animal, had almost wiped out his identity and why he was really living in the realm of men, spying on them for the Hyldra. The routines and weight of time had crushed his reason to hate humans. He would have given his life to serve the king's daughter. He would have galloped into battle for her, had Hyldr not been manipulated by the same person who had forced him to live with the folk of Vanaheim.
Hyldr,
He managed to utter.
Yes, I am a mare. But deep down, I am also a man, as you can see.
So it is you, Freyr, said Hyldr, bitterly weeping at the thought of her most loyal friend, the only friend who would come to save her. Another Hyldra.
I came to take you home. Your father is sick. Battle has begun. The order of the mist is broken. You must do something to stop the king,
said Freyr, dropping his hands to the floor and cracking his bones back into shape to become Hyldr's mighty fjord horse. Take me to him, Hyldr whispered, holding the horse's head in her arms. In the woods, where the snow had once hidden the woodland shrine, water now trickled down a muddy slope to the iron gate, wide open. Eleonora held a torch over her head, stepping carefully in the dark to avoid slipping. What are you doing, Elle? This girl has despised your existence from the first day you set eyes on her. Poor thing, though. Nobody really gets her. Nobody sees her true value. Eleonora peeked into the prison and called out Hyldr's name. She took a deep breath and went inside to make sure Hyldr wasn't really there. At the back of the ivy grotto, fireflies were performing a mesmerizing aerial choreography. Eleonora slowly approached the bioluminescent ballet, so she didn't scare them off. A few fireflies flashed their sallow lights on and off and floated over to land on her head, while the main troupe was dancing around the statue covered in ivy. Bending her knees to take a closer look, Eleonora tripped slipped on a thick ivy branch and toppled over, crashing into the firefight totem. Her torch she had dropped, scorched a few leaves and twigs, and unveiled the skull, staring right back at her with shiny yellow eyes. The queen couldn't breathe and got up so quickly she forgot the torch. It was so dark outside that Eleonora knew she had to go back. The fireflies had gone, or had switched their lights off, but the torch was still on the floor, highlighting the skeleton bound in ivy. What a horrible sight. Of course, people get their skulls emptied or chests cracked open wasn't uncommon, but the visual effect was lugubrious enough to scare a black cat. Eleonora bit her lip and hurried over to her torch and picked it up. See? Nothing to it. Without warning, she felt something electrocute her neck. A smooth grey hand slid under her chin and lifted her head to meet the fiery gaze of an angry dog. She saw the dying flame of her torch reflect in the shadow's eyes, and a drop of her own blood dripped onto her trembling lips. "Who are you?" she whispered, unable to move under the drog's charm. The drog drew closer and licked the blood off her wet lips. He sniffed her forehead and replied,
"You smell of muddy,"
which made Eleonora smile inside for a fraction of a second. Refer held Eleonora's head with both strong hands and paused for a few heartbeats to practice Kara's lessons of self-restraint. Didn't see the point, and ate through her lips, cheeks, and jaw muscles. The queen didn't make a sound as the rumored woodland king bit through her tongue and sucked out as much warm blood as he could in one go.
"But you aren't my mother, are you?"
Eleonora's head fell to the floor, and her skull cracked next to Ordor's, the Norn monarch of black water. Another well commonly known by the Hyldr as orphan webs. See you soon for the next chapter of Hyldr.